video interview we are discussing individuality and the group. Now, we have done video interviews in relation to individuality and group within 2 previous video interviews, and this video interview is basically bringing those 2 points that we had discussed as group and individuality together within the context of seeing, realizing, and understanding what is individuality within a group, and within that, what is a group within individuality. So, with us walking within the interdimensions in our process within the physical, we have walked together as individuals in assisting and supporting ourselves and each other, and ourselves, the group as a whole, in our processes of equality and oneness with ourselves as all. And within and as that process, what we've done is manifested ourselves into a group and have placed our emphasis on and within the group, and within that emphasis on placing our walking in maintaining ourselves and the group as a whole, and with each individual walking within that context of attempting to or trying to assist and support themselves within the group, what manifested was a group entity manifestation where the group in itself became more than the individual, and within that more than the process of equality and oneness, in establishing equality and oneness within self as all of existence. So what happened is, let's take for example drawing like singular vertical lines. Draw like 10 for yourself on a piece of paper. In drawing those 10 vertical lines, each vertical line represents an individual. Now what we've done is we have drawn basically a circle around us as those 10 individuals, and that circle represented us as a group. And then within that you can draw a circle outside of that, and that would be existence, representing existence as equality and oneness as a whole. Now what we've done is we've walked within and as individuals standing together, and that togetherness as the group within existence as a whole. And how we've manifested that separation in where we as individuals have stood as and become a group instead of individuals standing as a group in walking the individual process of equality and oneness as all, is where we were like moving, walking, and aligning and positioning ourselves in constantly and continuously reflecting ourselves and each other only within that inner circle as the group. So we were like walking and trying to maintain and manage ourselves and each other, and wanting to get that togetherness aligned in an equilibrium of doing things together at the same time in similar ways. And what we did not consider or take into consideration was that each and every single one of us are standing within a different point within existence as a whole, which within itself has its own extensive multi-dimensions, its own context and its own process. And within that, it is from that perspective impossible to attempt and try to manage ourselves in a group togetherness while the very points that each individual is walking and facing is extensive in its difference, complexity, and multidimensionality. And so within that process of placing the emphasis on wanting to align the group within existence, within us individuals walking together, we separated ourselves from our individual responsibilities in the very points that we're facing within the physical and existence, because we were trying to align ourselves as a group instead of ourselves as individuals within the point that we are walking and facing ourselves. And within that, within each taking responsibility for the point that they're walking within existence, and walking that equality and oneness with self, and each individual walking that, we have separated ourselves from ourselves in and as existence as a whole. So what manifested is, instead of those individual vertical lines being manifested within various points within that bigger outer circle as representing existence as a whole, and with each one standing in their own self-equality and oneness, in taking responsibility for the direct point that they are facing and walking within existence as a whole, we had isolated ourselves from existence as a whole, from the very point we're directing, walking, becoming equal to and one with, and secluded ourselves into within and as a group context. So, now to get to the question of what is individuality within a group and what is a group within the context of individuality, is the following. Now, if you want to draw yourself, again, a big circle, within that circle you draw again 10 individual lines, vertical lines. Now, 10 vertical lines in various positions and places within that circle. Now, the circle represents existence as a whole. The individual line represents individual beings standing in various positions within existence as a whole. Now, in walking one's own individual process, in standing as an individual walking process, it is each and every single one of those vertical lines standing within their position within existence and taking responsibility for that point that they are facing as themselves, in establishing that self-equality and oneness, to within establishing that self-equality and oneness with that point, to then move on to the next and the next and the next. And so the beings walk self-equality and oneness in becoming equal to and one with themselves as all of existence. And with each individual standing within that and walking that, that is representing beings walking together yet as individuals. So it doesn't create or manifest a externalized group context, because each being is standing within their individuality, is standing within their process of walking equality and oneness, and within that it is a walking together as one and equal, but not manifesting a group entity. And within that, then what happens is, what is it that gets the attention? What is it that is focused on and implemented is equality and oneness within existence as a whole. And therefore within that, it's not the group that gets dominion over what is best for all. It is in fact individuals walking together as what is best for all. And within that, there is equality and oneness with each individual, because each individual is walking the same in establishing self-equality and oneness. And so the focus, attention, direction is then placed within and as existence as a whole, as self, and not within the group with self. So this to take into consideration within the walking of our process as Destonians as well. It is to remember that it's not to externalize the group as Destonians, as a group walking this process. It is individuals walking their own individual processes and walking that individual process in the applications exactly the same, which is your self-forgiveness, writing, and self-corrective application. In walking that as your process of self-equality and oneness, and everyone doing it together, that is manifesting walking individuality yet together, but whereas the focus and attention is on self-equality and oneness, and becoming equal to and one with self as all. And within that, to walk with the group as all the individuals within yourself. That is, placing each individual that you're walking with within yourself, standing equal to and one within self. And within that, it makes sure that one do not tend to utilize the group as an excuse, reason, or justification for making certain decisions within one's individual process, like, for example, not taking responsibility within a certain area in which the group are working or walking together with, because one say, oh no, the rest of the group will take care of that. It doesn't work like that. That's again within that very acceptance and allowance, manifesting an externalized entity and giving the entity the emphasis, attention, and focus instead of self. Because when individuals in their individuality stand in establishing self-equality and oneness, each one will take equal and one responsibility for existence as a whole. And within that, so let's just have a look at then the Destonian's process. What is your existence at this moment is, for example, your world and this world system as a whole. So what we're busy establishing as Destonians is individuals standing in positions within the world system, and firstly now starting with that process of self-process, as well as having a look at walking into the world system. So now you have individuals standing within their self-process of establishing self-equality and oneness, walking the processes of self-forgiveness, writing, and self-corrective application. In that, we are all standing together. However, in terms of the responsibilities that we have toward ourselves and the world, we must stand within that positions for ourselves. So you must have a look at where must you as an individual walking with stand in taking responsibility for certain points that requires direction in making a visible stand within the world system, as we're, for example, doing with equal money, with various projects, with various forums, participations, blogs, vlogs. So each one makes sure that they're participating within that process of establishing self-equality and oneness with self within and without. And you walk that through participating in the various projects, forums, applications and doings such as writing and vlogging. And within that, each one take that point of responsibility. Each one participate in their self-process as well as within a project or a point or a forum in which they then walk within their process of establishing self-equality and oneness in the world system and facing the world. And with each one doing that individually for themselves, each one is thus walking equal and one within themselves. And that is manifesting the togetherness. And many would perceive that as a group within the matrix or this world as your ordinary human beings that are having a look at how we're walking together. But that must be realized that we're not walking within the context of an in and out or a manifested separation. It is simply how each individual is standing within themselves, walking their own process and establishing individuality through writing, self-forgiveness, self-corrective application, and participating in the projects, forums, and applications to and as facing the world system and establishing equality and oneness for self within the world. And within that, we make sure that we do not tend to project responsibility on to and as the group as a whole, but always ensure that we take that point of individual self-responsibility. How am I assisting and supporting me within my self-process of equality and oneness with me as my mind, which I do through my writing, self-forgiveness, self-corrective application, and then how am I assisting and supporting me in facing myself as the world system in participating within the equal money system and other projects or points that are busy being walked in terms of facing the world system as a whole, which you can do through your writing and your blogging, where you take on a point within the world system, open it up, have a look at it in common sense, bump it within what is best for all and see does it stand or not, and expand on why it doesn't, how it doesn't, how can it be changed within the context of an equal money system. So within that, each individual walk their own individual process to individuality in establishing self-equality and oneness. And if you take the group and place the group within yourself, group meaning all the individuals that you are walking with, that will also make sure that one don't go into that tendency of manifesting a group entity within yourself in trying to move and reflect yourself externally from a group entity, but to simply have a look at placing the individuals within and as you, and making sure that your process is aligned, equal to, and one with how you're walking with others. And that's how one assists and support to walk with other human beings, and not externalizing it into a group entity. So a group is thus, within a new definition, individuals that are walking their self-process of equality and oneness, taking responsibility for a point within the world system and walking this together. And within that, establishing as individuals equality and oneness, because each individual is taking their responsibility for themselves and their point, and so we walk. And this is what we've realized within existence as a whole as well, in how we're now individuals taking responsibility for our self-process and our process point in what we're facing within existence as a whole, and just walking that for ourselves as individuals, and each one doing that. That is our togetherness, our walking with, which is experienced or seen within the context of a group, but it's not manifesting or creating a separate group entity. Alright, so just to clarify in terms of individuality and group, and stipulating the walking with in taking self-responsibility for self and a point within self and one's world, and how many human beings and how we're accumulating that 1 + 1 + 1 until we've got humanity as individuals, establishing individuality, walking together, equal and one, and within that changing, transforming this world and this reality as its existence, which is what we're walking. Thank you very much.